did you find a flower like that? You mean, you see this when you look at that?
Well, yes, that is, I sort of feel it. You see, when I look at that flower, I see someone...
Isn't anything private in this house?
Scarlet Street from 1945, directed by Fritz Lang, hands you its thesis in one line. A stylized flower on canvas, and then the real flower plain and makeshift sitting in a drinking glass on the bathroom sink. The film is about projection, misreading, and the brutal cost of mistaking an inner picture for reality. In this world, people don't look and see what's there. They look and see what they need. Then they suffer for it. Hello, I'm Shane, and this is Take 55, a channel for short essays about cinema. These aren't reviews, they're focused observations picking up on motifs and themes that sometimes get overlooked. So if you've seen the film before, I hope to offer a new perspective on it, and if you haven't, hopefully you'll seek it out. This is the last episode in our series of 10 classic film noirs, and it doesn't get much bleaker than Scarlet Street. Opening on a rain-slick New York exterior, the film is set in 1934, the same year incidentally that the Hollywood Production Code began to be enforced with real rigidity around sex and violence. Although it's spring, almost everyone is wrapped up in an overcoat. Two middle-aged women drift past in the background. In the foreground, a young woman without an overcoat walks her dog with a coated sway. That could be flirtation, it could be work, maybe both. A young couple pass the other way. A limousine then pulls up, and Lang cuts to the opposite side of the car like a ceremonial reveal, to show us a beautiful young blonde draped in furs and jewels in the back seat. An organ grinder on the street has a monkey and she reaches out to feed it something. And here we have the film in a nutshell, where the main themes and the dynamics between the main characters are already present in the first two shots. Inside, we see Christopher "Chris" Cross, played by Edward G. Robinson, being honoured for his 25 years of loyal service as a cashier at the firm owned by J.J. Hogarth, played by Russell Hicks. J.J. hands out custom cigars before leaving the celebration to step into his other life, with the blonde in the limousine that we've just seen outside. A quick gag about the old 3-in-a-match superstition with its World War I trench warfare origins lands like a tiny omen. As J.J. offers him a light, Chris literally crosses his fingers. And it recalls the same superstition that turns up in the 1932 film 3-in-a-Match, where it's treated as a warning about being the third wheel. Lang plants it here as a quiet piece of foreshadowing. Chris is married to Adele, played by Rosalind Ivan, who mocks his Sunday painter aspirations, relegating them to the one place in their apartment that is pure function, the bathroom. His artistic soul can only blossom while being surrounded by plumbing and mirrors, so Chris's art is literally confined to the least romantic room in his home. And walking through Greenwich Village after the celebratory party, Chris stumbles upon Kitty, played by Joan Bennett, being accosted by a drunken man. Chris intervenes and hits the man with his umbrella. The attacker turns out to be Johnny, played by Duryea. Johnny is Kitty's boyfriend, possibly pimp. Whatever label you give it, he's her controller, expecting her to bring back money and attacking her when she comes up short. Kitty notices Chris's tuxedo, hears him talk about art, and she assumes he must be a successful painter. And Chris doesn't contradict her. He needs her to see him as something more than he is because at home only mockery awaits. Kitty's interest begins with opportunity. Chris might prove useful. The deception works because it's mutual, each enforcing the other's misconception. After Johnny pushes Kitty to work Chris, she persuades him to rent the former apartment of a well-known artist. She sells it as a studio, a private world away from Adele's ridicule, and Chris agrees because the place seems to certify the version of himself that he wants to be. And this is when the film's misreadings become practical. Chris starts to embezzle money from his employer to live inside the picture that he prefers. And the moral side is blunt, but the emotional logic is sharper. Chris has been treated like function for so long that a flattering misread feels like oxygen. And that's the trap. Accept the misunderstanding and you accept the cost of maintaining it. Lang threads this through copying and authenticity. Chris cites Maurice Utrello and defends copying as a stage of art. Adele laughs because in her world, copying is fraud. Lang's uglier irony is that authenticity isn't decided by the work alone, it's decided by who people believe and what story they attach to the image. When the paintings start circulating, they do so through misattribution. Art critic Arthur Janeway, played by Jess Barker, sees something real and wants to meet the artist. Johnny, seeing dollar signs, decides that the paintings will now be Kitty's. And Chris, who has turned to crime to protect the fantasy, now finds himself erased by it. The work is his, but the identity isn't, and praise only tightens the trap. When Chris discovers Kitty's been claiming the paintings, he proclaims,
Well, what difference does it make whose name is on those pictures, yours or mine? Why, it's just like we were married. Only I take your name.
Kitty doesn't have to invent a persona from scratch. She simply borrows one.
How long does it take you to paint a picture?
Well, sometimes a day, sometimes a year. You can't tell. It has to grow.
I never knew paint could grow.
Feeling grows. You know, that's the important thing, feeling. Well, now you take me. Well, nobody ever taught me how to draw, so I just put a line around what I feel when I look at things.
Yeah, I see.
It's like falling in love, I guess.
When Janeway asks her about the origins of the paintings, Kitty repeats Chris's own lines about art, using his words as a script.
How long does it take you to paint a picture?
Sometimes a day, sometimes a year. You can't tell. It has to grow.
Of course.
It's a matter of feeling. You know how feeling grows? It's like falling in love, I guess.
That's a very good description.
And in that moment, she becomes exactly what Chris guessed earlier, an actress, someone who can perform conviction on cue with borrowed language and everyone wants to believe it. It's the cruel upgrade of the earlier euphemism. Actress stops being a polite misread and becomes a method, and the art world then reads the work through gender and persona. Janeway praises the masculine quality in the paintings. Chris is socially meek, domestically contained, and yet the work is being described as forceful and authoritative, but only through a mask he himself is not allowed to wear. One of the film's coldest ideas is that recognition isn't really recognition. It's often just social permission. The work only counts once other people say it counts, once value has been attached to it, once it becomes legible as success. Until then, it can be mocked, ignored, or treated as an embarrassment. Inner worth has no currency until the outside world agrees to it. Scarlet Street is relentless about this mechanism. The opening street scene already told us what kind of world this is. The passers-by in the opening are not characters, they're signals. Chris paints a flower into an emblem. Kitty sells an emblem as herself. Janeway buys the emblem and calls it genius. And that feels like the right note to end this first run of films on, because it's noir with nowhere to hide. Not just shadows and crime, but the quieter violence of being misread, and then living inside the misreading until it starts to feel like fate. Next time, Season 2 moves into screwball comedy, the same obsession with performance and desire, but at a different temperature. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel for more close readings of films that leave marks. This is Take 55, and that's a Season 1 wrap. Thanks for watching.